Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 27 June 2016. I've got a little bit of a knife review for you guys tonight. This knife is the Benchmade 765 Mini MonoLock. This is the smaller version of last year's 761 MonoLock knife. Get the old blue box out of the way. You guys all know what's in here. So this knife comes to the TheApostleP channel courtesy of my buddy Derek Bone at knivesshipfree.com, the best place to buy knives, period. I was up a week or so ago visiting the Escanaba, Michigan area. Stopped in and had dinner with Derek and Mike Stewart of Bark River Knives and their wives. And it was cool. There are some interesting things happening in the knife world in Escanaba, which may, in a few short years, be known as the capital of the knife world. Yes, there are plans being devised and hatched for world domination by knife guys in Escanaba. But I digress. This knife is actually a piece of inventory of Knives Ship Free. Derek sent me home with it for review, and rather brave of him, I think, because you guys know that I am no fan of the big brother, the big sister, the 761. So let's take a close look at the 765 Mini MonoLock and see if they got right some of the things that were wrong with the 761, shall we? First, let's talk about dimensions. We have a blade, a nice lots of belly drop point with a swedge on top, 3.2 inches long, flat ground from about 3/4 of its height down, perfect distal taper, comes to a nice fine tip. The blade is fashioned of Bowler M390 Super stainless steel, and it is super. This is a first production run, number 939 of 1,000. And they've got it all etched up. We even have the U.S. patent number for the Benchmade MonoLock system featuring this faceted stop pin. I didn't have wonderful things to say about that. I still don't. The blade thickness is about 115 thousandths, probably surface ground from 1/8 inch stock. The handle is made of 6AL 4V titanium, and if we peek through these unused tip down holes, we might be able to peek in and see a little red washer. That's red urethane housing the ball bearing thrust washers that this knife runs on. It is a thumb stud deployable knife, right hand only. Carry is tip up or tip down, right hand only. Benchmade just does not want left-handed people carrying its right-handed frame locks at all, ever. They just never. How hard would it have been with this straight clip just to drill me a couple holes over here? Really? Come on. But, you know, then it would mess up the show side for you righties. I get it. The pivot, pretty standard fare. It is a D-shaped barrel. The show side has the female end. The lock side has the male screw. It's adjustable, but they don't require much adjustment, do they, on ball bearing knives? You just kind of set them up pretty tight and go. The blade finish is normal Benchmade fare, a light stonewash over a satin. Love how they did the base of the edge. They actually cut a sharpening notch in the base of the edge. Notice how it terminates after the plunge grind terminates, so you get a nice straight cutting edge all the way to the base. It's ground, not super thin, maybe not quite Spidey thin, but it appears to be ground fairly thinly and appears to have a pretty symmetrical edge. and it's a little toothy, but it's pretty sharp out of the box. Pretty doggone sharp, actually. Nice job, Benchmade. Okay, let's talk about what I didn't like about the 761, and let's look at the 765 and see if they fixed it. First of all, the pocket clip was an issue. It wasn't very pocketable, and it was tip down only, which Benchmade has a penchant for doing on all liner lock and frame lock knives because they usually have horribly weak detents. Well, after enough people complained, they gave us a tip up option. Let's see, did they fix the detent? Yes, they did. All you do is nudge that blade past the detent ball and out she flies. And it will not come out of the handle when you don't want it to. But it's not such a horribly abrupt detent that it precludes you from opening the knife slowly, even with your fingers resting on the lock bar. Good job, Benchmade. I will say this, although it is a ball bearing knife and it is fast and free, it is not particularly smooth. A lot of grit. You can feel the vibrations of the blade through the handle as it opens. A myth, I think, in the knife world is that ball bearing knives are so smooth. They're so smooth. Look how smooth it is. Well, free and smooth are not the same thing. This knife, not particularly smooth. Maybe it's got a little grit in the pivot. It's a brand new knife. Don't know. Let's go back to this pocket clip that we were talking about. I get so easily distracted. I'm sorry, guys. It looks great. It's in the right location. But, this is a dedicated, purpose-built, 3 1/4 inch bladed, everyday carry knife. A knife that ideally, by design, would be going in and out of a pocket multiple times per day to cut stuff. You pull it out to cut stuff, you put it back in your pocket when you're done. Well, it's totally a one-hand knife to use, open and close, cut stuff with one-handed. Putting in your pocket, however, is going to require 2 hands. There's a lot of tension on this machined billet titanium clip, and not much ramp coming in. So whether you're wearing jeans, khakis, whatever, you're going to have to hold your pocket with one hand and jam the knife down over the pocket seam with your other. Not a win. I don't think an EDC knife should be a knife that you can insert and remove from your pocket without thinking. Not going to happen on this knife. Okay, so the pocket clip they sort of fixed, but they sort of didn't. The detent they definitely fixed. It is absolute perfection on this knife. What else didn't we like? Oh yeah, really, really weak lock bar tension on the 761, and again, it's fixed. It's just exactly perfect. It lets you know that the lock is going to stay secure, but it doesn't require a Herculean effort to release the lock. By the way, the handle is about 410 thousandths thick, and it's 4.2 inches long. So we got 3.2, 4.2, 7.4 overall length, 410 thousandths thick. Weight on this knife, 3.3 ounces. Does it remind you of anything? Well, in size, does it remind you? Is there a knife maybe that they're benchmarking for the production of the 765? Well, yeah, I think probably. Here is a Chris Reeves small Sebenza with an Insingo blade. And you can tell that the 765 is a little larger knife. I'm going to try to line these up front of the handle to front of the handle for you. Okay, so you can see both in handle length and in blade length. I don't think I quite did that. Okay, about there. So 3.2 inch blade length, 2.94. 3.98 handle, 4.2. 3.3 ounces of weight, 2.8. We're not going to penalize the MonoLock, the mini MonoLock, for being a half an ounce heavier because it's the larger knife. Good weight to size ratio, I think. And then the handles are almost exactly the same width. The Benchmade about, I don't know, 3.9, or I'm sorry, 0.398 thousandths thick and 0.410 on the Benchmade. That's not measuring across the micarta inlays. That would be the width of a non-inlaid small Sebenza. How about the balance? It's really perfect. This knife wants your finger to be back in this jimped area of the lock bar. It kind of wants your hand to be there. And that's pretty doggone good ergonomics. The pinky hangs out on this little flat back here, and you're plenty good. And the hammer grip, good there. Draw cut grip, nice. Reverse grip, pretty good. They got jimping here on the insides of the handle slabs, but I can't ever really see your thumb being there. It kind of wants to hang out up here, but not bad. Overhand pinch grip, really nice. Draw cut grip, really nice. And let's go to that vertical draw cut, really nice. Guys, the ergonomics of this handle are really quite good, with one exception. And we're going to talk about this MonoLock a little bit now. If you can see, you still have that L-shaped lock face. Look, there's on the left side of the lock bar, there's a little piece that juts forward. So the lock cutout actually goes like this in the lock bar. I know Shirogorov uses that. I see no point to it. All it does is it limits the effective range across the blade tang of that lock bar. Of course, you can compensate for that with this patented but unnecessarily complicated adjustable lock pin. Those facets are all at different distances from center, so you can rotate that till you get the lock bar to engage where you like and not bottom out the L-shaped lock bar. I don't really, I don't get that. Why don't you just do that? This small Sebenza of mine is, I don't know what, 2, maybe 3 years old. It came with 50 to 60% lockup. It is a highly carried rotational EDC blade, and it's still at 50 or 60%. It doesn't move. It never develops any stick. It just is a Sebenza perfection. This isn't hard. Copy the geometry of a Sebenza, carburize your lock face, and make it good to go forever. Spyderco knew that when they designed the Sage 2, the homage knife to the Sebenza. These frame locks just keep getting more and more complicated, and the more complication they put in them, the more areas that poor performance, poor execution of machining, or out of control processes can cause problems. It's a marketing point, adjustable lockup. Well, okay. Does it really work? I don't know. They have gone away from this in the newest titanium frame lock, the Benchmade Proxy, which is a posthumous release of a Warren Osborne design, his last knife design. There is an adjustable lock face on that knife, but it's all done with an insert in the end of the lock bar. The stop pin is fixed. Maybe that's going to be better. I don't know. We'll have one of those in here in a week or two for review. This form of the MonoLock probably isn't worth getting a patent on because it really isn't very good. But, is it going to be a big issue in this small EDC knife? I think not. I think a lot of the weaknesses of the 761 will tend to fade away in this small sort of gentleman's EDC knife. The 761 is of a size where, it's going to be employed in hard use cutting and tactical applications, and it's going to have to hold up, and I'm not sure that it's really constructed to do so. But in this sort of elegant frame lock, I think it's going to be okay. I like the mechanics and the design of this knife much more in this size class than I do in that large tactical size class. You know, if this knife were more lefty friendly, I'd be buying one. But that proxy that I told you will be on the channel in a week or two, I did buy that one. It's got left or right hand tip up capability, and it comes with a split arrow Benchmade clip. I'm a sucker for that, you guys know it. I just love the way they've sort of stolen from Strider on making this knife sharpenable. One thing about this knife, when you really look at the blade, you feel its exquisite geometry, nice, gradual, and acute main grind, and thinness behind the edge. I think, as a sharpener, I think, man, I can put an edge on this and it's going to be one whale of a slicer. It's a pretty darn good slicer right out of the box. Well, if I got good at that, I could middle finger flick it. There we go. I haven't really had this knife in hand that much. Don't want to handle it too much since it's going to be in one of your safes pretty soon. How's the blade centering? Pretty good, pretty good. Dead nuts, I think. You know, I think this knife's going to sell. I believe it's MAP priced at $301 at the retailer of your choice. And I think well worth it. With full titanium construction, nice 3D machining, and you know, that billet pocket clip, that makes it worth $50 more, I would say, than a knife with a lame spring clip that just works perfectly. But you know, this is priced $50, squarely $50 less than a base non-inlaid small Sebenza. $50 less. $125 less than an inlaid small Sebenza. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think there have been too many quality issues with these out of the gate. Ben at Knife Ship Free did tell me, believe it or not, a Benchmade frame lock was returned for having too strong of a detent. I think that's probably good news. You know, if they're erring to the side of too strong, that says good things about their detent. I don't find anything about this to be too weak for its size, and it sure is handsome, isn't it? So all you right-handers, go get you one. I think you'll be happy. That's all for this one, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and this factory Benchmade edge are sharp.